Chers auditeurs,
Dear listeners,
bonjour.
welcome to Comme d'Archi Podcast Season 5.
Saison 5, dans le monde fascinant des architectes.
And in the architectural projects.
Je suis Anne-Charlotte Deponte, passionnée d'architecture et docteur des universités en histoire de l'archi.
I am one of the spokespersons of Anne-Charlotte, who is a PhD in architecture history.
Merci
Thank you
d'être avec moi aujourd'hui.
to be with us today.
Et
And
maintenant,
now,
lundi en français, place au talent.
and Wednesday, let's talk projects. In English, of course.
Bienvenue dans Comme d'Archi.
Hello everyone, hello Martin Duplantier. Thank you for being with us today. You are architect. In 2 or 3 sentences, could you introduce us to your architectural practice?
Yeah, sure. I'm an architect. I'm an urban designer, urban planner. We are based in Paris, in Bordeaux, and we have now a studio in Ukraine, in Lviv. We gather about 30 to 40 architects altogether, and we do very different kinds of projects, from public spaces to designing new neighborhoods, to museums, housing, offices. So it's a very general studio dealing with a lot of types of projects.
And now can you tell us about your projects in Ukraine?
My involvement in Ukraine actually comes back to 2015 or so, right after the invasion of Crimea. So I've been teaching or coming and visiting universities mostly during 7 years until 2022. And since then, we've gathered a group of architects, Ukrainian architects, that are now based in Lviv. And we try to assist NGOs, foundations, and let's say local authorities into the fast recovery, but also into the long-term vision of their cities. So we help these local authorities to, for example, in the case of Izium, which is a city in the east of Ukraine, which has been completely destroyed by the Russian occupation, we tried to help them to actually anticipate the reconstruction and avoid the fast reconstruction. You know, after the Second World War in Europe, in Western Europe, we've done a lot of mistakes. We've implemented a lot of new neighborhoods that were disconnected to public transport, to any mixity of functions, etc. And so here we're trying to anticipate this, and we're trying to put on the table and around the table the stakeholders of this reconstruction, including the people, and including, of course, the inhabitants and the communities. And this is not so easy when the people have left, and when you have only 20, 25, 30% of the inhabitants still in town. But thanks to internet and thanks to social media and so on, we managed to reach them, and they are actually super active. And I'm amazed by the civil society of Ukraine that is really positive thinking, that is really looking at the future as something that is, of course, after the victory, that is optimist. And this optimistic vision of things help us a lot in these dark times and in this, to go through this tragedy. And then we also work on proper projects, architectural objects, such as, for example, the Museum for Maria Primochenko, who is one of the most famous artists of the 20th century in Ukraine. She's what we called a naive art creator, a painter. And Maria has been living in this small village of Ivankiv in the north of Ukraine, up north, really northern than Kiev, in this village. And there was a small building hosting about 14 to 15 artworks from Maria. And the funny thing is, funny is probably not the right term, but when the Russians came, they blew up only one single building in this village. And that's the Museum of Maria Primochenko, of this very Ukrainian artist. Just to say that the attack on culture, the attack on the genocide on Ukrainian culture is really concrete, is really tangible. And so we've been with District 1, which is a Ukrainian cave-based foundation. We've been working on the on the reconstruction of this museum, on other kinds of bases, and we've been using a lot of historical construction techniques based on stone and wood construction, timber construction. And now we're trying to gather the funds to fundraise so that this construction could be financed and the site could go on.
Okay. Do you speak English in Ukraine?
Ukrainian? Well, yeah. I'm learning Ukrainian quite intensively, or not intensively enough, probably, because it's super hard and it's a big challenge. But
you are so busy, like an architect.
Yeah, maybe too. Yeah, I should dedicate more time to it. But I have a team who's Ukrainian. I mean, they're Ukrainian, so it's not a topic, and it's not an issue. And then I interact in English, of course, and that's Ukrainians are very good in English, so it's fine.
Yes.
Yeah.
A last word, perhaps for French people, that we need to understand more about the situation of Ukraine.
Yeah, well, just maybe a word to all Europeans, and also any citizen. I think in this world has to understand that a country is really struggling for its own existence. That architecture is part of their culture, and so it's part of the fight as well. It's part of the protecting architecture and protecting heritage is also an act of resistance towards what is happening on the front line. This is what I call the second front line, which is maybe less tangible than the one that is military, but it's as important, because this is, without this connection between the people and their land and the people and their culture, then erasing Ukraine will be much, much easier. So by enabling and making Ukrainians understand and proud of their own culture and proud of their own history and architecture is something that is essential to the fight in general. And we don't know how long it will last, but democracy has always won. And so I want to believe that this time again, we will finally take our destiny in our hands and grab it and fight for the victory.
Yes. We hope a lot. Bye-bye, everyone, and see you next Wednesday for New Comme d'Archi in English. Take care of yourself. Bye.
Thank you, Charlotte.
Thank you for listening, and thanks to the sound engineer who was collaborating with us today. Don't forget to tune in to our previews on Instagram at Comme d'Archi Podcast. If you enjoy this podcast, don't hesitate to promote it by giving it 5 stars and a little comment on Apple Podcast or on your favorite podcast platform. And above all, subscribe to listen to all of our episodes for free. See you soon, and until then, take care of yourself.